Hey, this is Zach Log the Great, and I am here tonight with my friend Nate.
Oh, no face.
No Face Nate. And Travis.
Hello, everyone.
And we are joined this evening also by Dark Age Sage. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, and you can just call me Reese. I'm a Substack content creator. I have a little under 200 followers on my account and 40 readers on my newsletter, Tale from Thule. I write primarily about immigration, politics, culture, anthropology, and history.
So I am going to link Reese's Substack in the show description, so be sure to check that out. And we are getting together tonight to talk about the poem Gratitude by Wilfrid Scawen Blunt, which Reese has volunteered to read for us tonight. Before we get to that, I did want to mention just a couple of things. One, if you like my show, if you like my work, you'd like to support that, you can go to subscribestar.com/Zachlog-the-great and sign up to support the show. Also, if you like my content, you might also like my book and my short story, which are up on Amazon. That is The Mayor of Christ Mountain and Led by a Star, both of which are up on Amazon. And you could check those out, and you could, and you might check that out and buy that if you find that interesting. So, having said that, I am gonna. Oh my gosh, did I? No, I've got it. I am going to put the poem up on the screen, and Reese will read it for us, and we will get this show on the road. Wait, where are we? So, let me know when you guys see this, and there we go.
It is visible.
All right, ready when you are.
All right. If gratitude's a poor man's virtue is, 'tis when at least my sick soul can afford. Bankrupt, I have all youth's charities, but not of thanks. No, thanks be to the Lord. Praise be, dear lady of all grace, to you. You were my Medicare, my one sole friend. When the world spurred me from its retinue, and I am yours, your bound slave till the end. How shall I tell you? There was a time when I was sordid in my unbelief, and mocked at all things less robust than crime, a convict in my own prison house of grief. But that is past. Your pity was the key, which set me forth, a broken man, but free.
Okay, and Travis, would you like to start us off with your thoughts tonight?
Me?
Sure, I can give that a try. So I feel like I have to start with the guy's name. I never heard of this guy before, but that is some name, the Scowling Blunt Wilfrid, But yet he writes such a beautiful, emotionally adept poem, I feel like. And I don't know, I'll just start with the first line. Like, I think that is a great line. If gratitude a poor man's virtue is, and just the idea that is, what virtue does a poor man have? Gratitude is one that he can have. And then the opposite side of that is, a rich man may not actually come upon the virtue of gratitude easily.
Not at all.
It can go either way, but I believe that was Nate. What did you want to put in there?
Oh, I was waiting on you, bud.
So, I don't know. I'll let that start us off. Somebody else can jump in.
I would like to jump in.
Go ahead.
I think the reason that this poem resonated with me so much was because, like, I've had a pretty rough life up to this point in time. Sometimes I'm depressed, I'm just out of it, but I'm still better than like so many people. There's so many people who are just in an infinitely worse place than I am. And also, I think just a lot of people, especially today, they have no gratitude. Like, they are literally allergic to gratitude. There's people who have way more resources, wealth, whatever than I do, in a better position. Yet they're just scornful, spiteful little. I don't know what words I can say to you two, but very like I know people who have so much in every way, kids, wife, everything, and you just cannot show even an ounce of gratitude. Just complaining all day, every day.
Yeah, and it's and there's two sides to that, because like definitely there is like, look at all these things you have. Why do you have this attitude? Why can you not be thankful? But at the same time, like however much someone has, like from the outside, you can see all these things. But it's harder to see the things that are going wrong. Like
That's very true.
like to take a prominent example, like Johnny Depp has all this money apparently, has this celebrity, well known in all these movies, and yet from the outside things probably looked pretty great like 5 years ago, but he was married to Amber Heard, who was a psychopath. And so like there's definitely like, look, you need to be thankful you have a lot, but there's also like judging someone else from the outside is a tough business. And yeah, go ahead.
It's like, that's very fair. Like someone like who I loved as a kid, watched a lot of his movies, Robin Williams, The Genie in Aladdin, Jumanji, a bunch of other stuff, that cross-dresser, and he he was like hundreds of millions of dollars in wealth, household name. He unalived himself. Like in 2013, I believe.
We say kill. We say kill on this channel. It's okay.
Oh, we do? Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. I don't know what.
Yeah, we
I
don't
know
have
what
to talk
censors.
about he committed self-die or he did the sewer slide.
Oh.
We straight up killed
Sewer
himself.
slide.
Yeah, I didn't want to get you guys demonetized.
I'm not monetized.
Like Zach Log could
Technically-
never be monetized.
I
Almost like
actually
I've said on
was.
this channel, I mean, he's never going to be monetized.
I was monetized for like 6 months, and then they changed their standards, and YouTube still owes me like a quarter for those 6 months.
This is the hill I'm willing to kill you on. I mean, wait, yes, no, that's what I meant to say. Yeah. No, but what I was saying is true. It's difficult. It's difficult to be able to accurately judge someone's happiness from the outside based on visible factors. And that's why it's a fool's errand, just do your best to be your best, to treat people as best you can, and be content with your own lot in life. And so, don't worry. I spend a lot of time telling my kids this. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Worry about what you need to be doing. We need to be taking care of those around us and, being ready to help. That's our job. And so I start with my family, then I move out, and then I'm grateful, look, you say your name is Reese?
Oh, yeah, Reese, yeah.
Reese. All right, man. Look, I've had moths in my pockets for so long they ate the pockets and flew away. Now I don't even have those. But I've got a big family. They love me, and I get to see my wife and kids every day, and it's awesome. As long as the bills are getting paid and we're all eating, I'm a happy man. My bank account stays pretty steadily at zero, but I'm not fighting against that. I'm not worried about that because I'm a rich man in the ways that matter.
Yeah, in terms of the
soul. And so I'm, I see a lot of guys, that I know, that I've worked with, that go to my church or whatever, tons of money. They have very successful careers, but they're either teetering on the edge of or have fallen over divorce. and having to be split up from their families. And where I'm from, one of the major career paths is working in petrochemical industry, and they have designed that to ruin marriages and split up kids and families. Like, it is inhuman scheduling. And so I see all these guys have got lots of neat toys, they've got money in the bank, all of this, and they're freaking miserable. Where I'm here, having to debate the cost of a pizza most times, but at the same time, I'm happy. And so gratitude is the poor man's virtue, because we don't get a chance to do a lot of the vices,
Yeah, I can forget that.
Think about life. Most of them tend to be expensive. And so, we're forced into those virtues, but we can be grateful no matter what. And I found a lot of peace in that. And so I really enjoyed this poem because, there are times I feel like I'm not doing great. I'm in a rough spot. But then I look around and go, but I have all the things that have been held important since forever. And I've got quite a number of luxuries that if I really want to turn around and look at them, I can be like, hey, you know what? I live better than most kings.
Yeah, historically.
Well, and it's actually, I did a video about this a while ago. It's like gratitude and hot chocolate and gratitude, or something like that. And like, it's very easy. Like, wherever you are, it doesn't matter how your life is going. Wherever you are, it's very easy to look around and to focus on all the things going wrong. Because no matter, if you're a human being, no matter how good things are, there's still problems. There's still things that are going wrong, things that you wish you could, get straightened out. And, wherever you are, that's going to be it's very easy and natural to focus on those things. And if you do that, again, no matter where you are, no matter how much money you have, no matter your family, if you focus on what's going wrong, you're going to be miserable. But if you make a point to to be thankful for what is going right, then no matter how bad things are, you can be at least a little happy. And that's actually, I haven't done this for a while. I probably should start doing it again. For a while, I guess it would be a gratitude journal, where just at the end of every day, I would write down a list of 5 things that I was thankful for that day. It could be that I had a bowl of ice cream, that I had a bowl of tasty ice cream. I am glad I had that. That was good. It could be something as simple and small as that. But every day I would just write down 5 things I was thankful for that day, just so I practiced, focusing on good things. And you don't have to do that, but that's definitely a positive.
I mean, to take it one step further, I got to practice figuring out how a problem actually helps me sometimes. I got to practice looking for the silver lining. Pickup truck that I use for work, the heater runs constantly.
I have the exact same problem.
I can't turn it off. No matter what I do, I've got heat coming out of somewhere, right? This morning was unseasonably chilly. So I go outside and I'm like, Burr. I'm just driving down the road and I'm like, well, at least the heater's on.
Oh, man.
I gotta tear the dash apart, and that's gonna be something that has me questioning my blessings, I'm here to tell you. But, I've got the time and tools, so I can do it myself. So, more silver linings. Look, there's always going to be things you don't have. In fact, there's probably going to be more things by the vast majority that you don't have than that you do have. And some of those things are even going to be things you want.
Probably, yeah.
But here's the deal. they're not going to make your life good or bad. C.S. Lewis is talking about this in Mere Christianity, and I bring this up a lot. Everything you do, every thought you think, every decision you make, puts a hammer mark on your soul and shapes it into either something that is heavenly or hellish. And so if you choose all the time to mope about things you don't have, which is, again, the vast majority of things, instead of appreciating the good that you do have, if you sit there and just throw away the bird in the hand because you see there's all these ones in the bush, you're a fool. And you're going to bend yourself all out of shape about a bunch of stuff that doesn't affect you. Like I said, no new doodad or gadget is going to make your life better if all you're going to worry about next is what the next doodad and gadget is. I can see 4 empty spots in my gun case right now. And I could fill all of those up with things I really want. But here's the thing. It's not going to make my life better. I'll have neater toys and I'll, be glad to see them and handle them and all that. But honestly, there's nothing I need that the world can provide me because God has been so good to me in my life.
And, again, to, kind of go back to something Reese was saying earlier, it doesn't matter how much you have. If you're not thankful for it, you're going to be a miserable son of a bitch. And you're going to, treat other people badly because, in your head, I'm supposed to have this, this, and this. Why don't I have this? And, and you're going to take that out on the world. And so that's
why the love of money is the root of all evil. And it's not just money. It's the love of all, it's basically the love of more. I want more money, obviously. I'm willing to harm people, to steal, to disadvantage folks. I am willing to injure my fellow man for filthy lucre. I want more women. So I'm going to, steal brides. I'm going to break up families. I'm going to, basically be a deceiver and a piece of trash so I can acquire as much sex or as many women as I can. Or I want more power. So I will have 56 of my associates shot. 56 of my associates will commit suicide to further my career because I want more power. Sean ducked because he thought he saw the sniper. Anyway, like I said, it is satisfaction that is the root of all evil. It's jealousy, it's envy, and all of it is ingratitude. And so, if you don't want to become a Clint horrible monster, then just take a moment to breathe and think about the things that you don't have to worry about. And
exactly,
let that turn you away from the path of evil and destruction.
Travis, you were saying something a second ago?
Well, I just think it's interesting that both Nate and I have the same problem with our truck heater. And I came to be thankful that I can still put my window down. I have a hand crank window and I can put it down instead of an electronic window that's stuck and can't come down.
Hey, hand crank windows, man.
They're the best.
I have had I don't have that vehicle anymore, but I have had a window where it would go down, but it wouldn't always go back up. And then once in a while, I would accidentally wind it down. And I'm like, oh no, oh God, now the highway is going to be horrible. And so anyway.
What kind of truck you got, bro?
I've got a 1998 Chevy S10, and you may be familiar with these, but the other infamous thing about them is that the 4-wheel drive does not engage. And it has not been engaging, so I've been running in 2-wheel drive in Montana winter, and
Ooh. Old sir.
And well, you're from Louisiana, so you really may not know about these things. But when you really need 4-wheel drive is getting in and out of your parking spot. Like otherwise, you're usually
No.
pretty good.
I did I was in Virginia for 6 years. It snowed up there. There was one time traction control of my Focus got me stuck in the end of my driveway because the wheels would spin and it would be like, whoop, stop. And it would just stop the wheels at all. And I couldn't push through it. I had to turn it off and just sort of spin my way through. And I was like, okay. So, yeah, no, I've been there a couple times.
Yeah.
So you're new here, Reese. So you're new here, Reese. Extended rambling on all kinds of other subjects is a pretty normal thing here.
I honestly enjoy it.
Just so you know.
Yeah, I'm from like I said, Canada, and we just had in Central Ontario, the worst winter ever. Like seriously, my parents have lived here for 25 years. It's the worst they've ever experienced. Like it was snow, cold. It was so bad. Like it's not even funny just how bad it was. I just find this hilarious because when I was a kid, I would watch a lot of documentaries about climate change and say, "Oh yeah, 2025, the Earth's going to melt. Like all the polar bears will be dead. We'll be in the fucking desert, and we all of a sudden get the worst winter that I ever remember, ever."
Yeah, I'm like, man, that global warming sure is gonna get us. The Gulf Coast was under a blizzard warning for the first time ever.
Yeah.
But I was like, and frankly, if all the polar bears die, great. They're the only land animal that actively hunts humans. I don't need the rivalry.
That's fair, but they're cute, so they should be allowed to live.
I am here to tell you. I watched a documentary about polar bears,
sell Coke.
and they had one that hooked a beluga by the blowhole, dragged it up on the ice. There was a 100-yard square block of blood and chunks. And I was like, holy hell, that is the gnarliest thing I've ever seen. Yeah, polar bears ain't cute.
From a distance, they might be cute.
Should we come back to the poem, Sean?
But
I am grateful that
I was about to. I was about to. That was the next thing I was going to say. Back to the poem. I actually picked this poem to post about Thanksgiving time, and because sometimes I don't always do this, but a lot I try to find gimmick poems sometimes, and one thing. If you just try to find poems about thankfulness or gratitude, a lot of them are really kind of sickly sweet, are kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
And the reason I picked this one, and also I've done 2 others for Thanksgiving, is because if you're talking about gratitude to God, and this one is, and the other 2 are. If you're talking about gratitude to God, if you're being honest, you kind of have to start with, look at my place before you. What could you what reason do you have to do anything for me? I don't have anything to offer you, and you still rescued me. You still gave me, meaning and hope for something, in spite of what a complete wreck I am. And by the way, I personally am kind of a wreck. There are people who are worse off than me, but I could spend a good while telling you all of the things that are that I need to fix in my own life. Not things outside of me, things about me, things about me. And poems ones that acknowledge that say, look, God, you have no rational reason to reach down and lift me up, but you did. My gratitude is from a place of I am a complete disaster, without your help. And acknowledging that, puts a bit of reality in this, puts a bit of it no matter how no matter what the rest of it says, if you have that element, like it grounds it and it makes it more honest and in the real world. It's not a Hallmark card anymore, I guess you could say.
No, that's a really good
and so that was part of the reason I picked it.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
it's
Jack.
brutally honest, that's for sure.
Yeah. And so, like, that's one of the things I liked about it too, Sean, is that it, people talk about, oh, it's so, it's so human. But a lot of times what people think is like, so personable and all that is like, their best intentions. They think the sugar is what is the most beautiful thing. But honestly, I think this is the most beautiful thing because it points to truth. And the truth is that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. And, for any of our listeners who are yet sinners, still, Christ died for you. And that's beautiful. Because, as Reliant K said, we're all guilty of the same things. If to think the thought is to do the deed, then we've all sinned in the same way. And most of us have sinned in the same ways by actually following through on the thought. Like we are deeply flawed, carnal beings. And in God's eyes, we have such unfathomable poverty that we're irredeemable. We have, by our own hands, diminished our worth so far that it just doesn't exist. But God decided, in his love and mercy, that no, in fact, he would not value us by our own works. He would value us. He would value us based on what he created us to be. And he would bring us back and restore us. And he would do it by devaluing himself. And so, I mean, if, the last couple of years have been, financially interesting for me. And there have been many times where I've had to accept money from people that I would really rather not have. But, I'm like, well, let's see, I can have pride or I can have power. And not like, temporal, worldly power, but electrical power. So I've had to bow my head, suck through my teeth, and then graciously accept what I couldn't provide for myself and my family sometimes. And that was galling. I've hated every second of that. But at the same time, I've been humbled by these kind people who, without making a big point of it, without making a show, and without me saying anything to them, have felt impressed that they should give me a gift and give my family a gift that really helped us out. And I think of that, and then I think back, 2,000 years to the cross, and I'm like, huh. We never do grow out of it, do we?
Not at all, no.
Well, and I don't know. I think in that situation, I mean, I've had to accept a lot of help. I've got serious physical issues, and have to accept the help of my parents. But in accepting help from others when we may be too prideful or really don't want it, there's a gift in that. We learn how to receive, and there's a gift in that somewhere. I don't know if I fully acknowledge it or accept it or look at it in the proper way, but there's a gift in receiving when we don't really want to have to receive.
I just hope one day I'll be in a position to give as generously as these people have, and that when that time comes, I can do it with the same grace they did. That, without looking down or without any judgment, just, hey, I want you to have this.
And,
Sorry, I'm getting a little misty-eyed because of the kind people in my life. So just go on without me for a minute.
So Reese, how about you? Is there? I feel like we haven't heard a whole lot from you so far tonight.
Yeah, I just also like to hear you guys talk. Like, I don't have like too much to add on much of this subject, but is it right to talk about Blunt for a sec?
Yeah.
So he was a British aristocrat, so he was basically born with a silver spoon up his arse. But he spent a lot of time in the East. He was a Orientalist. In this point in time, Orientalist meant the Middle East. So he lived in Egypt, and wrote some books on it, and he worked with like some Egyptian rebels against the British. He even like collaborated with some Egyptian rebels against the British, which I have mixed feelings on. And he served he didn't serve, but he ran a bunch of times for British Parliament. He was even friends with Winston Churchill's father for a minute there. And so I really love this poem and everything, but the man was not the best. He was kind of degenerate. He slept with his own cousin and the wife of his best friend, but I like to see myself who can separate the art from the artist.
Well, and he also, it's not like he's holding himself, like in the context of the poem, he's not like holding himself up as like, look at me, look at what a great person I am. He's like, look, let's see.
I'm a cousin fucker.
There was a time when I was sordid in my unbelief and mocked at all things less robust than crime. And it's like, look, I was a mess. I was a horrible person. I thought anything other than being like horrible and degenerate was like not worth talking about. And you chose to save me anyway. And you know, you don't have to go that direction. Like that's not necessary. But at the same time, like if you've been down that far and have genuinely been have by God's grace been pulled back up, that's something worth talking about too. And whether what's like it's the other thing with that, as a Christian, I believe in forgiveness. I believe in redemption. The other thing with that, though, is like there are consequences too. And like just because you're forgiven, just because you are redeemed, that doesn't always, clear out the consequences of your sins. And sometimes those are just going to dog you the rest of your life. And, Blunt could quite likely talk about those and say, yeah, I was grateful to be saved, but wow, I caused myself a lot of unnecessary grief, and I could say the same. I am very grateful that God has reached out to me, and I can also say I have caused myself unnecessary grief. I have caused, there are problems in my life. There are things I wish in my life were different, that would be different if I had made better choices. And, that's just how life goes. And like, you try to make the best of that, and you try, also one measure of gratitude, you see someone else in a place like you were, and you reach out a hand to them, when you can. Pay it forward. And like that's even in the so let's see, A B. Yeah, so this is a Shakespearean sonnet. For those of you who aren't as
like, hey, hang on a minute. I was reading it and I was like, oh, we're going for like 3 sonnets in a row?
Are we? I did. What was the last? What the last one was? Oh, the last one was Zermatt. What was the one before?
I thought that was a sonnet, but I don't remember.
Zermatt was a sonnet. I don't remember what.
Zermatt was the sonnet we did not like.
Yeah, that was the Petrarchan
I
sonnet.
liked it.
That me and me and Travis just beat up the whole time.
Yes, which occasionally happens, and that's just part of the game.
Game.
Wait, what was the?
Or maybe we
last...
just talked about a previous sonnet while we were beating up Zermatt, and so it got conflated in my head that we had done. This would make 3 in a row.
But this is Shakespearean, and Zermatt was something else you said, which
Yeah,
shed a little light on the shift that happened.
Oh yes, Zermatt was Petrarchan. But anyway, so this is a Shakespearean sonnet. For those of you not as into poetry form as I am, and so the last 2 lines are what's called the turn, which give it a different perspective. And he said, "That is past, your pity was the key, which sent me forth a broken man but free." And that's both parts of it. That's I am free. I am forgiven. I am set right with God, but there's consequences. I've made choices that have damaged me, and that's that's one thing. God gives us the law not because He wants to smack us with it, but because He's saying, "Look, I'm trying to make things better for you. If you do these things, it's not gonna go well for you." And so, I've done all these horrible things, and now I'm a broken man. What do I do? I'm set right with God, at least.
Well, I mean, being free of all those horrible things is also the freedom to, practice virtue and to build yourself into the man you should have been becoming all that time. It's a chance to, cut off the opportunity cost and get moving in the right direction again. And so the freedom is overdue, and we regret the lost time, but now we have the time to make progress. And so that also is a blessing. And so it's not just like, oh, well, okay, there's nothing I can do about all this. You can start setting those things right. You may not be finished when your time comes to go to heaven, but at least you've done as much as you could. Whereas before, you were only going to go on causing pain and chaos rather than, building anything or making anything right.
Well, and one of those ways of making right is, recognizing gratitude, exercising gratitude, because really, if you don't have any gratitude, you just kind of splatter yourself over everyone and everything as though they don't matter.
You're just people with no gratitude are just insufferable pieces of shit through and through.
Right. And so, if just finding gratitude, as one single virtue, that anyone can have, poor or broken, of being grateful for the little things that you get, is a powerful exercise in itself.
And one thing for me, one habit of mine is I go out bicycling pretty regularly, just to get some exercise. Used to be running. Some injuries made that a little less tenable. But like you get outside, you get away from buildings and houses and people. You get out in the country. You get out around trees, and you just start. It's a lot easier to recognize, oh my gosh, I live in a really beautiful world. And there's this saying which is probably somewhat applicable to me. Touch grass. People who are too online, people who are too caught up in the internet and current and political news and stuff. Go touch grass, and they're right. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Go ahead.
I've actually been doing that for the last month. I spent way too much freaking time on notes on Substack, but I've decided to take a break for the month of March. I was just miserable, honestly. I was just like desperately looking for like validation, just like posting, restacking memes and shit. It's like I wasn't doing anything like productive that would leave a legacy or that I would be remembered for. I would just be another shit poster.
Well, and it's very easy to get sucked into that, and especially, I know this applies to America. I suspect Canada is a lot the same in this. Like, a lot of social fabric has kind of unwound, and it feels hard sometimes to make honest connection, and so in person, and so you try to do this through the internet. Hello everyone out there, and you try to do this through the internet, and you get a little bit of it, and it's like artificial. It's like eating food that makes you not hungry but doesn't actually nourish you.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Like you eat this stuff. Go ahead. But yeah, it's like you eat this stuff and like you're not hungry anymore, but you're also slowly starving. And so it's definitely good to take a break. Heck, as we're recording this, we're in the middle of Lent for Catholics, and I'm not sure which other denominations. There are a few other denominations. Maybe step away from from Facebook and Twitter and whatever else for like a month, and focus your attention on the people around you in the real world a little more. That's not a bad thing.
It's not. But I don't know about where you live, but the real world in Canada is very much like it's not Canada anymore. Like, my neighborhood is not the neighborhood I grew up in. Like, there used to be community here. There used to be something. There was an old man that lived on my street, like, as long as I can remember, and I would talk to him every once in a while. He's passed away, and 3 Punjabis, college students, moved in their house. And there's no community there. There's no cultural connection, cultural cohesion between us and them. So I feel like a part of my community was murdered. I feel like a part of the real world was murdered. It's like it's real hard because when like you're a minority in your own neighborhood, it's like it's hard to find like connection. So that's why I think I desperately like try to go online to find a community. A lot of people on there are just like you said, they need to touch fucking grass. Like, they believe in the weirdest shit imaginable. They aren't real people. They're just like, I don't know, just consumed by fiction, consumed by the internet. It's hard, but that's why we need to show gratitude for what we do have.
Yeah, and I think there's the same thing in the United States, but it's been happening for a longer time and more slowly. So again, I've been to Canada once for an afternoon, and I never and so I don't really count that. But I'm not that familiar with Canada, but I get the impression that Canada is getting the same thing but faster
and worse.
And so
worse.
Yeah. And so we're kind of down here, we're kind of the boiling frog. It's been it's been slowly turning up over like 60 years. And so we're like, yeah, this is just how things are. Whereas you guys are like, what is happening to us? Why is everything going like this?
Yeah, but I think
Which is
like I have faith in Americans and the American people. Like half the population owns guns. Rural America is still largely European centric. There's 200 million white Americans, which is more in terms of absolute numbers than any other time in history. But and many Americans are proud of their heritage, whether it's state heritage, national heritage, but Canadians not really. Well, we're selective with how we're nationalistic. When Palestinian terrorists show up to Canada and wave their flags and have fucking AK-47s in the streets of Canada, no protest, no riots. When the government takes half of our income, literally, and gives it to Ukraine, gives it to Bangladesh, gives it to Africa, Somalia, no protest, no riots. Nothing. When the founder of the nation has his statues torn down and lies and half truths are told about our people, no protests. Just. But when the U.S. decides to put a little fucking tariff on Canada, a little tariff, like, oh, we're Canadians are pro, Canada is not for sale, we're proud of. Canadians and selective outrage drive me fucking insane. Fucking insane. I'm ashamed of this country in every way, shape, and form. Dude, I don't even want to call Canada a country. Canada is an old whore that's been used and abused by every ethnicity in the world for their own selfish interests.
Okay. Thanks. I think
Sorry,
you
got a
had
little
some-
off track there.
It happens. Or Nate, were you about to say something?
Oh no, just the series catchphrase. To get back to the poem, I think that I think this freedom, especially we in the West have enjoyed for a long time, and are slowly giving up. We have the ability to fail a lot more here. We have the ability to go down the wrong road and then come back in a way that most people throughout history and the rest of the world, and a lot of them the rest of the world today, never had. And I think it's one of the most beautiful things about our culture and our heritage as Americans and Canadians to an extent, is that, you can try something and it doesn't work. And you can come back. And we can even do that, with the fabric of our lives, and we can be like, oh no, and we can reinvent ourselves. Whereas in a lot of other cultures, it was always very deterministic. You failed, you're done. Like you are now the sinner. You are now the outcast.
Yeah, like the Japanese.
You build 5 houses. They don't call you a house builder. You build 2 bridges. They don't call you the house builder. You shag one cousin.
Your cousin fucking forever.
These days, they can go back and then keep building houses and bridges, and eventually people will be like, he really turned himself around. He quit it with the cousin stuff, and he built a bunch of houses and bridges, and it's great. And I think that's, part of the heritage, it's part of the Christian heritage of this nation especially. And so it's a wonderful thing, and I'm sad that we're losing it somewhat.
Well, and that is also part of the Christian faith. That is also, like, that's something that comes from, like, that's not, it's,
Redemption is a beautiful flower that grows in the most terrifying of soil.
you can't have forgiveness if there's nothing to forgive. And yeah, so.
But no, that's something I said about a number of people that have been like, oh, hey, like you'd see like people that are pretty notoriously ridiculous that they, profess to have been saved, and I'm like, hey, you know what? And people are like, oh, I doubt it very blah, blah, blah. I'm like, look, redemption is beautiful no matter whom it comes to. Said, if they're sincere and it changes their life and they, go and live an example, then wonderful. Spread your testimony and make a difference. And if it turns out this is just, a 5-minute fad for them, well, that's tragic. It's too bad. But there is never a redemption. And we can never be so haughty as to forget this. There is no man's redemption, no woman's redemption that is not rejoiced in heaven. And we should be just as happy here on earth to see people leave the path of damnation and come to the path of life. Even if it makes us personally angry because we really wanted to watch them go down. Like if Nancy Pelosi got saved, I would have to grit my teeth and repeat all of that thing I just told myself. That I just said to you guys, I would be sitting there mumbling it in the bathroom. But
I suspect Reese would put Justin Trudeau in that category.
Probably, yeah. But I don't know if he wants repentance in any way, shape, or form. I think he's done his own grave in every sense of the word.
It's
the Castros have never been good Christians.
Okay. Well, I think I've. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, well, anyway, I don't have anything else to say.
Okay. I think I've said most of what I wanted to say about the poem. Travis, how about you? Any last thoughts tonight?
Not really. I mean, I think gratitude is good. I guess that's all I'll say.
And Reese, how about you? Any thoughts you would like to about the poem or otherwise you'd like to close us out with tonight?
Yeah, just as I stated earlier, gratitude is a virtue that is severely lacking today. If there's anything that the average person needs in this day and age, in the culture that we have, it's gratitude. And check me out on Substack.
Yes. It's Dark Age. Is it darkagesage.substack.com?
I believe so, but
okay.
And I will have Thule.
I will have the link in the show description. So if I got that wrong, check down below. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me tonight, and God be with you.
Also.